Welcome inside episode 600 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Pillar up in the Blue Mountains, and the NHL calendar has officially turned its page to the 2022-23 season, and it's shaping up to be a big one for the Ottawa Senators in free agency.
And Ross, it may look like we're going on vacation with these shirts, but we are getting down to business as the free agent market opens. And let's hope Pierre Dorion can continue this absolute heater that he's been on and keep forming a great team for the Ottawa Senators.
The streets are talking, the insiders are buzzing, so we'll get into all things free agency. And for the record, we are recording just after 9 a.m., so things are subject to change. One thing that's already happened in concrete is Cam Talbot is now a member of the Ottawa Senators, a one-for-one trade from Minnesota in exchange for Filip Gustavsson. All that coming up on today's edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.
Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Senators your first listen on this Wednesday, July 13th. We are free and available on all platforms, including on YouTube, where the best way you can help the show grow is to like the video by clicking the thumbs up, subscribing to Locked On Senators channel, and leave a comment below. And all I want to comment today is welcome home, Claude Giroux. By the time you are listening to this, there is great potential that Claude Giroux is the newest member of the Ottawa Senators.
What a time to be alive, Ross. I mean, it's honestly baffling what's happening here, because we talked yesterday about the Matt Murray trade, and that was a big deal. And then that led us into the conversation of, okay, how are the Sens going to work their goaltenders? Boom, Pierre Dorion figures this out. Okay, we talked about the DeBrincat trade. All right, that's one of the top two lines fully figured out, but we probably might need another top six forward. Now it sounds like the Ottawa Senators are legitimately the front runners for Claude Giroux, and it's being reported all over the place. Like you said, Lalim's Martian and the streets are buzzing. And if you would have told me a month ago, Ross, if you would have lined up all these things, we would have had our typical conversation of you flying to the sun and me catching you and trying to pull you back down. But I don't have to do that anymore, because I actually believe these good things can happen to our team. It is a great feeling that the things you feel like your team needs to do actually get done. We haven't had that feeling in years. And now it's happening. We're wearing floral shirts on a Wednesday podcast. Let's go.
Oh my God. I just wanted to let that one ride out a little bit. Now, we should say nothing is official yet, as there are still 3 hours before
I'm getting ahead of myself even. That's what's happening here.
We do not know. We could speculate maybe in segment 2 what a contract could look like between the Ottawa Senators and Claude Giroux. But this morning was really where what hope turned into probability when Bob McKenzie comes out of semi-retirement, probably waking up with Bobby Margarita cans scattered all around, and he says, as it is typically on free agency day, there are a few signings that could happen right away. You know, some pretty good agreements that are there. So here's the exact tweet. UFA period opens at noon, and we're on air at 11 a.m. with TSN Hockey Free Agent Frenzy. As usual, deals in place and players already reportedly ties to teams such as Campbell to Edmonton, Kemper to Washington, Kopp to Detroit, and Claude Giroux to the Ottawa Senators. It will be a busy day. That is from Bob McKenzie, and when Bob speaks, it usually comes to fruition, and no quicker example than the NHL draft, where he was putting out the picks before they happened in the top 5.
And what gives me even more comfort, Ross, is we haven't seen, and not that this really happens ever, but we haven't seen contradicting reports. Not that Bob McKenzie usually has people contradicting his reports, but it's all been agreement. Pierre LeBrun also mentioning it seems like he's going to be the front runner. And I think at this point, and I'm sure you guys probably talked about this, the fact that Claude Giroux's at a point now where his family is a very important part of his life, and his wife and kids, they want to be in Ottawa. It's a great place to grow up, as you know. Look how you turned out. It's a great place to grow up. So why wouldn't they want to be in that area? They already have a house there. This team is coming together. Claude Giroux doesn't have to be the man here if he wants to come here. It's all lining up.
Claude Giroux was the number one face-off man in the National Hockey League over the course of the last number of seasons. He brings immediate credibility. We're already seeing the national media starting to say, oh man, the Sens could be building something over here. Like acquiring a 2-time 40 goal scorer wasn't enough. Now we know that the decor is still under construction, and Darren Dreger just put out the most insider of insider tweets of all time. And for the few clowns out there, and you know what, it's all to each their own, but I love the streets, and we're going to continue to give props. Leems Martian was on with us in our live stream last night, and 500 people at the same time. Talk about the vibe around the Sens, being able to pump it up at that amount. So thank you to everyone who tuned in. I also posted, and we're going to get to the Cam Talbot trade later, I had a discussion with Seth Tupal, our boy. He actually joined us on the live stream briefly too, but from Locked On Wild, he gives us the lowdown on Cam Talbot. Really excited to hear your thoughts on the trade too, Pilsy, because we know that you've been a Gus supporter through the Seattle expansion draft and the way he was kind of dicked around, for lack of a better term, over the last season, up and down, not getting consistent starts. But before we get to that, we still have to get into the decor. And Pilsy, I want you to read this one, because read the one that I like there. Does that say anything?
For people listening here, Darren Dreger tweets, Mackenzie Weegar rumors to Ottawa and elsewhere continue to drift. However, the Panthers and Weegar continue discussions on an extension. Decisions to be made. I don't know what that means.
Breaking news. Mackenzie Weegar will either be traded or he'll stay where he is.
Yeah, and things continue to move along, and decisions will be made. So if you weren't sure if decisions were going to be made, now you know.
Oh man, that's awesome. I absolutely love that. It's that time of year. You know, you get all these different reports, but one thing seems to be certain, and it's going in the right direction to bring Claude Giroux home. Now, I said later on we'll touch on what a contract could look like, but sticking with the decor, like, do you think Pierre Dorion makes a move for a defenseman today, or is this something that could drag out throughout the rest of the offseason? Because it seems like they're going to go the trade route if and when they address it. We've heard Chikrin's name, Weegar's name. It just seems like, and not that outside of Josh Manson, I don't know if there's a right-hand defenseman that I really see being a fit in a top four.
No, I would agree with you, Ross. I mean, Klingberg's there, but he's not the guy. He's going to demand a lot of money, and he's not the style of player the Sens are looking for. Am I saying he's a bad player? Absolutely not.
No.
But it's just not the right fit. I agree with you. Manson would be the guy I'm looking at here, but it sounds like, and Elliot Friedman was talking about it, Manson might go back to Anaheim. Like, this might be the trade and re-sign kind of situation here. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. And it's much better to trade for these type of defensemen that already have some years on their contract, because especially right-hand shot defensemen in the free agent market, they can command a pretty penny, and it's usually not worth shoring up and giving them massive contracts.
Yeah, and that's fair. I don't even know what the cost would be. And there's a lot of talk going around about that 2023 first round pick. And we know the 2023 draft is expected to be loaded top to bottom. I was saying on the stream yesterday, Zach Benson's a guy I got to see really closely this year with the Winnipeg Ice, and he's ranked 7th. I thought he was better than Savoy and Geeky this year. And those were 2 top 11 picks. And he was 16, 17 years old. So I'm really thrilled for that draft. But at the same time, dude, if you have an opportunity to it seems like if and when Giroux signs, there's just one missing piece here to make this a playoff team, and that's a top 4 right side. I'm going to say right side, not right shot, because Chikrin is a left shot, but does play the right side. It really seems like that's the missing piece.
And that's it. Like, I can't think of any other. I know it sounds crazy. And
it sounds crazy. This team is 17 points. I can hear the Leafs
fans in the background being like, oh, you're contenders. No, but
contenders.
Honestly, at this point, we know the holes in this roster. And if and when Claude Giroux signs with Ottawa, the forward group is perfect. I wouldn't change a thing on the forward group. And then you just need one more defenseman. Now, would you say, Ross, they need a defenseman to play with Shabbat, or they need a defenseman to play with Sanderson?
Well, we know Zub is Mr. Flexible. He can
But that's
play
what I
anywhere.
mean. Like, are you prioritizing Zub to play with Sanderson to give him some stability, or do you just love when we saw Shabbat and Zub together? They were a great pair.
I know.
So that works as well. But I don't know. Yeah. So
I'd probably say
answer
Shabbat.
the question. Shabbat.
I'd probably say Shabbat.
That's where I'm leaning to.
Like
I
Shabbat
like Zub
Uyghur, are you
Sanderson.
kidding me? Like that's a pair that, not that Zub can't, but that's a pair where you can put them out for 27, 29 minutes every single night and expect very positive results. And we've also seen Zub elevate the play of guys like Mike Riley. So you know that he's able to, he doesn't have to play with a good defenseman to be that. Whereas Uyghur's pretty much played exclusively. Well, I shouldn't say that because he was hurt a lot last year. But when Ekblad's in the lineup, he played pretty much exclusively with him. So you know that he's got that top pair mentality, and he's more of a kind of guy who's going to play. I don't want to call him a Methot style, but Sens fans, it's easy to draw that comparison as like the stay-at-home guy where you're in the right spot all the time. You can chip in offensively with a solid cycle in the offensive zone or a good D-to-D, but realistically, when your team has possession, your job is to get the puck to the guy next to you. Yeah. And he's played that role for a number of years now. What a career arc for Mackenzie Uyghur. I believe he was a seventh-round pick. He was with the Halifax Mooseheads when I was living there, and he didn't even stand out. Like, I was watching Ehlers and Timo Meier. They were so good, and then there's just this seventh-round pick, but I was looking through the program, and you see he's from Nepean, Ontario. So I was like, okay, I got to keep an eye out for Mackenzie Uyghur. But next thing you know, man, he's really established himself, and we know his vibes are immaculate. So he's definitely number one on my target list, above Chychrun. And that's saying something, because Chychrun at 4.6 for the next 3 years, that in itself is pretty enticing.
If you would have asked me a couple weeks ago, and I think we did do this exercise, I would have said Chychrun for sure, because he's under contract and the Sens struggle getting guys to stay. But at this point, we don't have to think like that anymore. Like, I can think positively, and I can dream up in the clouds with you, Ross, because they're realistic expectations. And Uyghur, if and when Giroux signs here, why?
So what number is Claude Giroux going to wear, Pilsy?
Yeah, that's what we're at right now. Why?
Coming up next on Locked On Senators.
Why wouldn't you want to stay on the Ottawa Senators? Why wouldn't you want to re-sign? And
I think Connor Brown.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not Connor Brown's fault.
No,
he's in trade rumors and is going to get a payday. And I don't know. Should we get into the Connor Brown thing too? I feel like we kind of have glossed over that with all this crazy news.
You know what? It's kind of together from the sense that
they are kind of attached.
He could be used to get that top pick. Like, for me, Mackenzie Uyghur, if you can get him for Connor Brown and the 2023 first, that I know some people are super against, you know what? Just to make the masses happy, I'll make it top 2 protected. Because that way it's lottery. That way, like, they could miss the playoffs by 2 points and then win the lottery. I mean, they're not the New York Rangers or New Jersey Devils, so probably not. But
they haven't had Taylor Hall in the system recently, so they don't have that first overall pixie dust sprinkled all over them. But
no doubt. But I would say, would you make that trade? 2023 first round pick and Connor Brown. And the thing is, Connor Brown 1 year left on his contract. Mackenzie Uyghur 1 year left on his contract. I think it could be a fit, because Florida's losing Claude Giroux. They're losing Mason Marchment, and they still want to be a competitive team. They need a forward that can help them right now.
I don't even think you need to use a first there, Ross. Especially a 2023 first, which everyone agrees holds more value than other drafts. But you have to top 2 protect it. And this is where I'm gonna bring things back down to a level, because when the Duchesne trade happened, not a single person on earth thought that this was going to come crashing down like it did. So you just never know. When the Carlson trade happened, I don't think anyone thought that the San Jose Sharks would have been in a position to select Tim Stützle if they
with Chicago. I think people did, though, when they traded their first for Seth Jones. People were like, huh?
Yeah, that's one I think a lot of people were scratching their heads at, and that's a whole nother animal. But yeah, that's the thing. Like, Connor Brown could do similar things that Claude Giroux would bring to the Florida Panthers, and I think it would make sense kind of making that move for both teams. So at this point, draft picks, the only use for them that I see is to acquire talent. I love the draft. I covered the draft solo this year, and I had a blast. But I don't give a damn about draft picks anymore. That was the old Senators. And now all I want is to get this team together, because they have put themselves in position to succeed. and I want to see some wins. I'm tired of losing.
I'm tired of losing as well, Pilsy. Well said. We'll get into all this conversation and the Claude Giroux talk. What could a contract look like if he does come to Ottawa? And we're going to finish the show with Cam Talbot because we're hoping as you listen to this, maybe you have to pause, maybe you get out of the car, whatever. We want you to have what could age quickest first, and then we'll finish off the show talking about the Senators' newest goalie in Cam Talbot. But first, let me tell you that today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. I know it's the summer, but is there anything more fun than betting on tennis or F1? I absolutely love it. And at BetOnline, you can do just that. They've got everything you need, from the latest odds, totals, player performance props to where the next fired coach is even going to land. BetOnline.net is the number one spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just one sport, it's all sports. BetOnline.net. Hockey, boxing, UFC, everything at betonline.net. Just head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. It's betonline.net, where the game starts. All right, Pilsy, we are now at 9:15. 2 hours.
We need to be doing timestamps. This is the day where it's important. Yeah.
My God, we're going to get this out as quick as possible. The turnaround time. Maybe even go and get the Wi-Fi all hooked up, disconnect everyone else in the house, and make sure that we are able to get this out for the people here at Locked On Senators. And we can't thank you enough for making us your first listen every single day, Monday through Friday, joining us on this journey. Pilsy, I don't have the record handy, but I have tweeted it before. The win-loss record since we started doing a daily Ottawa Senators podcast, it's not good.
It's embarrassing, yeah. It's bad. Yep. So we've seen a lot of L's, and I kept that L going there because it's been a lot of L's. But the winds of change are here, and I feel it.
I feel it as well, Pilsy. I really do. It's really a great time to be an Ottawa Senators fan. And now the curiosity becomes, if Claude Giroux signs in Ottawa, we heard yesterday with Darren Dreger, there's an excellent chance. The streets have been barking for days. We've also now gotten the Bob Fathers stamp. We've heard David Pagnotta from the fourth period.
Yep.
The buzz continues. Even Elliot Friedman said the Senators are the front runners for Claude Giroux. They said the Senators and the Florida Panthers. Florida Panthers have $4 million in cap, and they don't have anybody signed. So the Ottawa Senators are the front runners for Claude Giroux. Does that change what the contract is? Or if you're Pierre Dorion, you leave no shadow of a doubt, no negotiation. You just say, this is our first offer, and it's going to be your best offer, but we need you in Ottawa. It just gives him that hope. Like, let's be clear. He's going to wear a letter from day one next season.
Absolutely, yeah. And the thing is, Pierre Dorion is finally flexing his leverage. We had years where all the leverage that the Ottawa Senators have was just pissed away. Now, Pierre Dorion is finally being like, yeah, sure, there's other options, but we have more cap space. We have a better, younger core than everyone else. We are putting the right pieces in play. We have arguably one of the best goalie tandems in the league. Sure, we don't have, I'm not about to say Forsberg is better than Vasilevsky or Shesterkin or whatever, but I'm talking about the tandem. On any given night, you have a goalie that gives you a great chance to win. All we need is some veteran leadership, some help in the faceoff dot, somebody that wants to be here, and we can really make things work. And then obviously plus some help on the D side, but that's not the talk with Claude Giroux. So I think at this point, the Senators, the only way they lose out on this is if they lose on themselves. You know what I mean? Like if they don't fully go for it, if they don't fully use their leverage to bring G home.
Yeah, 100%. And coming across the wire right now, our good friend Darcy Cudmore, friend of the show, saying that on Fan 590 right now, there is speculation the Senators are also interested in John Klingberg. So this is going to just be a crazy day.
I have heard that, but I don't see how that makes sense.
I know,
because Klingberg's he's gonna want a deal that'll take him to the end of his career, 7 years, and he's gonna want gotta be $8 million at least, eh?
Yeah,
like he's probably looking for the Dougie Hamilton deal, at least something close to it.
Yeah, I would actually prefer them not to bring in John Klingberg.
Agreed. Yeah.
So
It's not necessary. Like, it would be great, but he's not the right person at the right time.
yeah, no, I agree. But we will
Look
keep
at
you
us,
posted.
Ross. We're like the best right-hand shot free agent. We don't need him. We don't want him. Like, wow. How the times have changed.
What kind of contract? Give me a prediction for Claude Giroux's contract. How many years do you think he sticks if and when he signs with Ottawa? And what could the AAV be?
I'm thinking 3 years makes sense for everyone, right? Because when you're looking at how the NHL world industry works these days, typically all deals are done with GMs being like, we know you're sewering us on this final deal, but we'll put it in to get the deal done. And if we have to buy you out, trade you, retain salary, do whatever on that final deal, we'll do it. And I feel like 3 years, it's so hard to tell. I'm gonna say over $6 million for sure.
Yeah,
between 6 and 8 million for 3 years. I know that's a wide range.
Between 1 and 8 years, eh?
Yeah.
But 1 and 7. 1 and 7.
But the range is there because how much is Claude Giroux going to be like, I'm willing to take a bit of a discount because I appreciate what you guys are doing here? Or how much is Claude Giroux being like, this is my first time hitting free agency. I'm going to milk it. And if he wants to milk it, fine. Pay the man. The Senators have the cap space and he's what they need. So it's so hard to tell. So that's why I'm being very conservative there. But that's I'm set on 3 years. So I'll lock in at that somewhere between 6 and 8 million.
Claude Giroux, I mean, what more can you say about this guy? 923 NHL points. You know what? I'm going to go out on a hot take here before we end the Claude Giroux discussion. Claude Giroux will hit 1,000 points next season with the Ottawa Senators.
He's at what, 923?
Yeah, 77 points.
Ooh, I like that because it's hot enough that it's like interesting, but it's also not insane. Like put him on a line with Stützle and DeBrincat. Woo! Yeah, that's
hopefully
crazy.
Tomorrow we're talking about where Claude Giroux fits in best with the Ottawa Senators.
Oh, I've already got him in with DeBrincat.
You've already done your prep for it?
Yeah. The process has been completed of where I see him going there. And
Pilsy, do you want to go even further? Can I confirm another hot take? He's at 95 playoff games. He'll reach 100 next year with the Ottawa Senators.
Oh, yeah. When the Ottawa Senators do the gentleman sweep on the Leafs, that'll do it. But I'm not even really so much focused on Claude Giroux's points, Ross. It's the faceoffs. This is a man who has over 17,000 faceoffs and a 55.8% success rate. That's incredible. Like you want sample size? How about 17,000 faceoffs worth of sample size and a 55.8 success rate? It's amazing. And what have we talked about this whole time? Tim Stützle moving the center has been amazing for him. But when you're winning faceoffs, like Stützle's faceoff percentage is almost half of what Giroux's is. Like he's in the 30s. You cannot get it done when you're chasing the heels every time, when you're losing those ozone draws and it's just being turned over and Alex DeBrincat is sitting there, 40 goal scorer, and he's not getting a chance to work in the offensive zone because Tim Stützle's losing faceoffs. And that's not Stützle's fault. It takes time. He just transitioned to center in the NHL. It takes time to do that. So bring in a guy that can help him with that. And Giroux is perfect. He's perfect.
He is perfect. And another I'm going to say, perfect's a little bit of a stretch. I almost did it just for the segue. I don't know if Cam Talbot's perfect, but he's certainly a good fit with Ottawa. Before we get to that, any final thoughts on Claude Giroux before we, hopefully next time we talk to him, we'll be able to show a nice photo of him wearing the Sens colors.
Welcome to Ottawa, Claude Giroux.
All right, Pills, you got a quick word from one of our favorite sponsors here.
Yes, I do. And hey, normally I would segue this, Ross, with being like, oh, Claude Giroux, he's going to need to get his car fixed to head on over to Ottawa from Florida, but he's already here. And if he was doing a road trip, though, what I would suggest to him is get his car all ready to go with Rock Auto. With ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure sitting in a crappy waiting room on old chairs from the 90s, drinking stale coffee and reading magazines that are 5 weeks old, when you can do it all from the comfort of your own home? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years, 2 decades. They have everything you could need from brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, even new carpet. Go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right? Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all of the parts your car will ever need. It's rockauto.com.
All right, Pilsy, how fitting that we hit 600 episodes of Locked On Senators. And yesterday I said, how fitting is it that we hit 599 and we get to talk about a goalie trade? Well, we get to do it again because less than 24 hours after trading Matt Murray to the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Ottawa Senators make a 1-for-1 goalie trade with the Minnesota Wild, sending Philip Gustafsson, 24 years old, one-way contract, 1 year RFA at expiry for 35-year-old Cam Talbot. I was a little surprised when I saw he was 35. I know he's been around a while, but he was also a late bloomer in the first place, which kind of feeds in to just that. But I've already covered it with Seth Dupal. I covered it with Martian last night. You can go get those on demand on YouTube exclusively. Pilsy, your silence is deafening. What are your thoughts on this trade?
I know most people probably know that I've been a Gus supporter. I've been really kind of letting people know I think he hasn't been given a fair shot. I think there's talent there. He's the goalie they protected in the expansion draft. But I love this deal. And it's so funny that remember the days when Pierre Dorion was adamant they were going to use 3 goalies. 2 of those goalies are now gone. It's just crazy. And we talked about it. Was I confident in Forsberg being a true starter? So right around, 50 plus games, and Gustafsson right around 30 games? No, I wasn't confident that that's a tandem that could get it done. I had my doubts. And hours later, Pierre Dorion fixes that problem. And if you would have asked me a couple weeks ago, Gustafsson for Cam Talbot 1-for-1, what do you think? I'd be like, that's trash. Why would you do that? Gustafsson he's just on the cusp of getting a chance to prove what he can do. He's 24. He's under team control. He's the guy they protected. Cam Talbot's 35 on an expiring contract. That doesn't fit the Sens' direction. The Sens' direction has changed. And trying to develop Gustafsson into a good backup goalie, you ain't got time for that right now because the Ottawa Senators have went from 2nd gear to 5th gear in a matter of days. And at this point, they needed to have 2 goalies that they could rely on. And I know DJ Smith, when that Cam Talbot trade happened, probably breathed a massive sigh of relief because he's like, I don't have to worry about this anymore. Last year, he was probably so anxious about, can Forsberg start? Am I pushing him too hard? Do I got to use Murray or Gus? What's going on here? Now he doesn't have to worry about that. And nothing works as well as internal competition in my mind, because Forsberg would have been like, I'm the guy. I got to bear the weight of this. I have to start so many games. Now he's got to scratch and claw to get those starts that he wants and probably feels he's earned. Cam Talbot, he just left, was disgruntled because he now had competition with Fleury. He's going to be fired up with a chip on his shoulder being like, I can Fleury, maybe that's a tough one, but I can outbattle Forsberg. I can get those minutes. So the competition that it creates is going to force those guys to do better and better. And we already heard about Forsberg's work ethic. We know what a high character guy Cam Talbot is with all the Anderson stuff. We talked about it. Him being the only guy on the bench to give him props. Him being very supportive when Anderson was going through that tough time with his wife. We know he's a high character guy, so he's going to fit into this system perfectly. And he's excited to get here. The fact that it was 1-for-1 is perfect. Again, another great move by Pierre Dorion.
Oh my goodness, right? And it just speaks to where we're at with the Ottawa Senators.
Yep.
This is where for me and that's a great breakdown, Pilsy, but this is where for me it really makes sense. What if Anton Forsberg, God forbid, suffers an injury next year?
Mm-hmm.
Would you be comfortable going night in, night out with Philip Gustafsson?
No.
This upcoming season.
And yet again, Ross, it would be another example of him being tossed into a situation he's not ready for, and he will not develop properly.
Yeah.
And that's why it's kind of funny for me. It's so funny for me, actually, that Minnesota did this, because We heard Bill Guerin put his foot down and say, I don't give a
He's
damn
awesome. He's
what
awesome.
what the agent says. He's under contract, and I want him on his team because I want a good goalie tandem with two veterans. Smart thinking, Bill Guerin. But he ends up changing his mind, and now the Ottawa Senators are the one with two veteran good tandems. And the funny thing about this is they had their Philip Gustafsson in Capo Kakkonen.
True.
Arguably, they had a
Very
better
similar
version of him. Kakkonen is only 1 year older and has over 60 plus NHL games, has better numbers, is a proven perfect guy to be your backup goalie, and they traded him. And now they're getting a guy that's younger, less NHL games, and coming off, I hate to do it to my guy, Philly franchise, he's not my guy anymore, but coming off a bad year. So, like, Ottawa really has gotten the best of this scenario, and Minnesota has to be like, hey, we got a guy that didn't want to be here out, and we got a little bit of cap space. That's their victory.
Yeah. I'm just looking at Philip Gustafsson's game log, and he went a stretch. He had one win in there, the win against Pittsburgh, where like
in November, that was the lone November win. So we gotta give him props for that, because if we went through November without a win, that would have been even worse.
But he had one win in a stretch of 12 starts between October 29th, he beat Dallas. Again, he got that one win November 13th. And then his next win was the Adam Gaudette shootout game against Vancouver, April 19th. Pilsy, that can't be good for your confidence. But I think this is a win-win. Like I say that, and it was a tough year. Philip Gustafsson would tell you the same thing. But he's going to go and learn from Marc-Andre Fleury. And how funny is it that he was drafted to Pittsburgh when Fleury was still there? They would have had a couple training camps together.
That's so funny. Fleury can't get away from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, well, even Bill Guerin was his teammate.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he just, Pittsburgh just follows him around. But 100%. Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm happy for Philip Gustafsson. He's getting a better opportunity here for himself.
But he's still not the goalie of the future, right? They've got Wallstedt there, but they want him playing games in the AHL. So it's a buffer, but it's an opportunity. He will be a 1A, 1B. But again, it's not the same situation, because I think you're probably more confident in a situation where Fleury gets hurt of if Gus can't carry the mail. Wallstedt's a top tier guy with already multiple years of SHL experience. Like, I love Mad Sogard, but I don't think he's a starter yet at the NHL level.
We can't do the Philip Gustafsson treatment to the next guy now.
But this is in case of injury, like in case of emergency, right?
I don't care the excuse or the reason.
Or you make a trade. You get a Mike Condon for a 5th round pick.
Yeah, not
right?
Not a Michael McNiven.
No.
But that's the thing. Like,
considerations,
the Senators, they finally are in a spot where they don't have that awkward third wheel ruining development. They have two goalies they can trust. And yeah, if it comes down to it and an injury happens, God forbid, then you can get a placeholder that is going to be there to help out, but isn't going to crowd things. Like, you don't care about that placeholder. Once the goalie's healthy, you can do whatever you want with him. So
right.
I just think this is perfect, because I was a Gus guy, but ever since Sogard came into the picture and went a perfect record when he came to the AHL, I had my sights on Sogard. Sorry, I'm getting all these Scandinavian goalies mixed up in my head. I was already penning Sogard to be the next goalie of the future. I had higher hopes for Sogard, and I had higher hopes that his development path would be more consistent and a better setup for success. So I think this is perfect. It's yet another great trade that just sets the Ottawa Senators up so good.
And get this, talk about perseverance. Cam Talbot, after 3 years playing the OPJHL for the Hamilton Red Wings in 2007, 2008, Pilsy, at the University of Alabama, Huntsville, known hockey school, he had an .860 save percentage in 13 games. At that point, you're looking for your real estate license, you're looking at law school, you're looking at something else than being a professional hockey player. But then the next year, .907 save percentage in 24 games. And in the third season, played 33 out of 35 games and had a .925. That was enough to get him a look in the AHL. What happens his first game in the AHL? Plays 19 minutes, lets in 3 goals on 8 shots.
Woo.
Okay? So there have been enough times. In the next year, he starts in the East Coast League. Plays 2 games down there, then gets called up. The numbers just get a bit better, a bit better every year. Plays 2 full seasons in the AHL, 913 save percentage, then a 918, then starts the year red hot in 2013-14, 924 save percentage. And then he legitimately pushed Henrik Lundqvist for the starting job with the New York Rangers. He had a 941 save percentage his rookie year, Pilsy, in 24 games. 941. That's Craig Anderson-esque in his years where he was close to the Vezina. Then 926, 917, 919. Those last two were with Edmonton. He's moved around a little bit. There's been some ups and downs. The little stretch he had in Philly was not good.
I saw that. That was a random one to me. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, that whole year wasn't good. It was like a 890 save percentage, but he's bounced back. He played great with Minnesota. Unfair situation that he was put in this year in the postseason, just getting that one game against, I believe
Totally
it was
unfair.
St.
It
Louis,
was game
right?
7. It was game 7 they put him in.
Game six, but facing elimination.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're just like, okay. So I'm not judging him on that performance where he allowed 4 goals on 26 shots. But this season, he was solid, man. If they can get a 911 to 915, which is the 2 bars that he set over the past 2 years of save percentage, that's perfect. But in a pinch, this guy can be an everyday starter. Pilsy, in 2016-17, that year where he had that great moment where he stayed out and congratulated Craig Anderson for the shutout, that was such an emotional video. Go check that out. Yeah. Steve Lloyd tweeted out. We put it out at Sens Central. He played 73 games that year.
Wow. Holy crap.
Yeah. 73 games that year. The year after, 67. This guy can carry the mail and be an everyday guy. Now he's 35 years old. You're not expecting that of him, but he has that ability, and he just gives you a safety net if Forsberg regresses, which I don't think he will. We hear how hard this guy works. We hear how mature he is, and I think Forsberg, the sky's the limit for him. First year of a 3-year contract, but to have a 1A, 1B tandem, which we see across the NHL now. Gone are the days of Marty Brodeur, Patrick Waugh, and Dominic Hasek playing every single game. Although, funny enough, Cam Talbot did with Edmonton a little while ago. But to have a successful team, you need to have goalies in and out, get rest, get proper recovery, and be ready to go when they're in net. I absolutely love this trade. And it also, funny enough, it's 24 hours before free agency. It sends a message that we're building a team that's not only going to be top heavy with 2-time 40 goal scorer and Alex DeBrincat. We care about the depth of this team as well, and we're here to compete.
Yeah, I got a couple things to hit on from that rant, and you love look at Forsberg and Talbot. You just mentioned the adversity he went through. How about the adversity Phil Forsberg? Anton Forsberg has gone through. Like, these two goalies have been through a bunch of stuff, and they've battled out and they've come out to the better side. And Ross, I almost think you're being too conservative, like saying that Talbot is a safety net and it's a good option to have. He might beat out Forsberg for starts here. Like, let's not kid ourselves. The last season he just had, like Liam's Martian said, he was an all-star. Like, he had a really good season, and he made things difficult for the Minnesota Wild. They brought in Fleury, but he still made things difficult for them. Marc-Andre Fleury is an incredible goalie. So I really think that it's not a foregone conclusion that Forsberg's the 1A guy. I think Talbot's going to push him, and they might have kind of flipping, like, okay, he's the 1A. Okay, now he's taking over. Like, it's just so good to see that. And the fact that they're able to get both these guys right now, like, it's been so long since they've had 2 reliable goalies, and it's just amazing that this has worked out like this. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how these 2 goalies push each other. And Zach Burke is going to have a very, very different season than he's seen in the past with his goalie group.
Oh, cannot wait to see how this develops through the offseason. What moves are coming up next? Now, I want to end off today's show with a little bit of a look back into the crystal ball, Pilsy. And I searched at Sens Central Giroux. I wanted to see when was the first time that we tweeted out Claude Giroux. And it turned out I was replying to a tweet about the 2022 free agent class on February 25th, 2021. 17 months ago, I said Giroux will be 35 and has already made his money. Just spitballing, but what about a 2-year, $10 million-ish deal, so 2 years, $5 million per, to finish his career and raise his young family at home? Pilsy, I'm not saying that this was foreshadowing, but it certainly shows how long Claude Giroux and his pending UFA status, as it is now 9:40 a.m., what this means for the Ottawa Senators going into free agency.
Yeah, and it's the message that's being sent not only to the fans, not only to other players, but to the league. Like, they're putting the league on notice. The Ottawa Senators you have known for the last couple of years are dead. Those are not the same Ottawa Senators you're going to see from now on. Like, we have two competent goalies. We have a 40-plus goal scorer in their prime. We have two top 6 centermen in Josh Norris and Tim Stützle. Our captain, Brady Tkachuk, is ready to lead these guys into battle. We have a coach that has these guys running through the wall for him. Like, other than getting the veteran leadership if and when Claude Giroux signs, and then getting that top 4 defenseman, a guy to play with Thomas Chabot, this team is poised to have a successful season and be a tough battle night in, night out. And not that chat of, oh yeah, it was hard to play Ottawa. Like, they really battle hard and you're trying to say nice things about a weaker opponent. That's not going to be the case this time. I think it's going to be the Ottawa Senators are going to be the sportsmanship guys. When the Leafs come through town, like, oh yeah, they got a lot of top talent. It's going to be hard to beat them. Bam, 6-0 win. Look out. It's going to be incredible. And the tides have changed. Sens fans, welcome to the new age.
All right, we'll be back to break down the new age tomorrow right here on Locked On Senators, and stay tuned on YouTube if and when free agency opens in just over 2.5 hours. We will be back for an initial reaction to any potential trade that could go down. But for today, we say goodbye. Thank you very much for listening. For Brandon Pillar, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.